Hi, welcome to Focus on Finance. I'm Melanie Parker. Focus on Finance is brought to you by the Consumer Education Division of the Wright Legacy Group. Speaking of which, we have the one and only managing member of the Wright Legacy Group, Steve Wright, here today. Thank you for being here, sir.
Well, enjoy being here.
Thank you. And we are going to do what we do this time every year, and we're going to recap what we did right and wrong for 2022 and talk about what we can do right purely in 2023. How's that sound?
Okay, we'll try.
The best we can.
I'm not sure how long the list is, what we did right, but we'll figure it out from there.
Right.
Actually, I kind of want to start off to remind people that here at the end of the year, every year during the end of a tax year, that there's a lot of transactions that might need to be taking place. Mm-hmm. Many financial institutions are already sending out letters and emails to people, letting them know that if they're going to make certain financial transactions by the end of this year, to be processed by the end of 2022, that you need to get working on that quickly.
Gotcha.
You know that. Required minimum distributions for people who need to take those. I've seen many of them suggesting that you have the paperwork in and processed actually about the first week or so of December.
Gotcha.
Because they want it to be cleared or taken care of by the last day.
Right.
Now the last day of this year, this December 31st, is actually a Saturday. So that means that the last business day is December 30th, a Friday. Right. So it means it gives an extra short day to do things like that. I've seen from certain financial institutions that Roth conversions, where you're taking money from your taxable IRA accounts and converting to tax-free Roth, those conversions take time. Mm-hmm. And many financial institutions are saying by the first week of December that paperwork needs to be in.
Gotcha.
To give them plenty of time to do all the transfers and set that up.
Sure, it's not something that can happen overnight.
No, and you shouldn't ask any institution to do it
right.
the week after Christmas, just to be honest.
It's the holidays.
It
folks.
Is a holiday.
Come on. Yeah.
The thing about Roth conversions is that once you process them, there's no more recharacterization, or you can't go back and undo it.
Gotcha.
So if you want it for this year, you need to get that taken care of right away from there. Required minimum distributions is something that many people wait till the end of the year to do, mm-hmm. But also many people wait to the end of the year to do their charitable giving.
Gotcha.
And if you have retirement accounts and are at least age 70 and a half, you can do what's called a qualified charitable distribution. Mm-hmm. QCD is what we call it. That allows you to take money from your taxable account, right. donate it to a church or charity, and it's a non-taxable event.
Right.
You can meet your required minimum distribution that way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those take time also.
Gotcha.
And if those are to happen this year, again, I'm seeing institutions say pretty much by the first week, mid-December at the latest, mm-hmm. that paperwork and those processes need to be put in place there.
Right.
From there.
That please.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, the thing is, if they don't receive it, then it'll be counted in tax year 2023
right.
From there. And then a lot of people do just out gifting and giving money to charities.
Right.
And quite honestly, those checks and things, to be sure to be able to count it for this tax year, need to cleared, not dated.
Gotcha.
Really need to clear
the
financial institution by that time and all.
And there's a large penalty if folks forget.
Yeah,
that,
the required minimum distributions, if you forget to take that, there is a 50% penalty.
That would hurt my
feelings. Which is significant.
It is.
So if you have $5,000 required minimum distribution, for some reason you don't get it processed or taken this mm-hmm. year and it rolls into January, there's a $2,500 penalty for not taking that.
Oh, that'd be painful.
Well, yeah, and there are some exceptions, a list of exceptions that will qualify for you missing it. Mm-hmm. Obvious one, you're in the hospital,
right,
and you can't. Mm-hmm. A less obvious one, you're in jail.
Well, yeah, it happens. Yeah.
So be careful about that and everything. Yeah. Another thing that's been kind of confusing for the past 2 years is that in December 2019, Congress passed the SECURE Act, S-E-C-U-R-E, and it changed the way how you inherit IRA money as a beneficiary. Mm-hmm. And basically, it deemed that after any deaths that occurred after January 1st of 2020, that you inheriting that money had to take the money out by the end of 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not clear at the time whether you were to take annual required minimum distributions or not. So here we go almost 2 years. We go 2 years. In February of 2022, the IRS puts out a proposed regulation saying, hey, by the way, last year and this year, you're supposed to take out an annual amount.
Oh.
Well, it's proposed.
Okay.
Well, here in October, they finally said, look, you were supposed to take them out last year and this year, but because you didn't have enough time, quote unquote, we're going to waive it, waive the 50% penalty,
Nice.
and not have to take it out.
Good.
So what I'm getting at, for those of you all who inherited IRA accounts and was still unsure whether you need to take money out this year or not, that is not necessary
Gotcha.
as a regulation for this year. But beginning next year. So next year at this time, if you have not taken out your required minimum from an inherited IRA, then that 50% penalty will apply for 2023.
Sure.
So plan that ahead.
Yes.
From
Planning ahead across the board makes a big difference.
Yeah. And then as people are paying attention, they realize that this year interest rates have gone up. Okay. Good for savers. Not so good if you're buying a house, car, consumer debt, things like that.
Right. No big stuff.
But with interest payments going up, it has caused a lot of people to look at early retirement by the end of this year. And here's why. 50% of our workforce still has a pension plan. And as you get near retirement, you have the option of taking a lump sum.
Okay.
Or give me the cash, I'll invest it myself. Well, when these pension payments are processed, when the interest rates are low, the actual lump sum payout to the retiree is high. When interest rates go up, the lump sum payout is lower,
Ouch.
as much as 30% lower.
Wow.
So if your lump sum payout calculation early this year was $100,000, if it may be $30,000 next year, less, $70,000.
Wow.
So in wake of that, there was a big article in the Wall Street Journal in the month of November that Ford company has told their employees they had till the first part of December to decide whether to retire or not to get the highest lump sum payout. And closer to home, Ford is a home too, but closer to home, three top executives with Kentucky Fried Chicken have opted to retire early because their lump sum payouts were going to be diminished by about 25%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in that case, we're talking $500,000 lump sum payout if you do it now versus January, you get $400,000.
So do the interest rates affect the folks that do not opt for the lump sum and get it paid over time?
It should if they have I'll do what's called a fixed account option where they get paid all the time. It should benefit them to some degree there. But anyone that's really close within a year or two of being able to retire and have a lump sum, they really got to make a quick decision. But that's one of those things that sneak up on you and didn't really realize that can affect it there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, that's an urgency for sure if you're have a lump sum payment option and you're thinking about retiring ahead of time anyway.
Right, right. At the end of 2022 or 2023 is a good year to retire if you talk to a financial advisor first.
You know, I always say it's not your age.
Right.
When you get to a point in life that you have more money coming in without you going out, then you can retire.
Right.
And it's not a number. It's not age 65. It's not 70.
Social Security and
it's basically if you have done enough investing or have residual income from whatever, where you can not go to work on Monday and still have enough money coming that month to meet your budget and whatever, then that's when you can have a decision to make there.
I guess we are wired to have an end game. And that Social Security check or that, that long-term goal, that number is just a magic number for us.
Right.
But if we can make it happen before, even better.
Yeah, it's something. The age game gives you a target,
Right.
but yet it's not in concrete. I
No.
guess is the way to put it.
No.
And things like that.
There's nobody telling you can't retire before age 62, 65, 67.
No.
Yeah, just your bank account
right.
really tells you what
Money
you
coming
can
in
do.
without you going out, you can retire from there.
Exactly.
And that's really the realization many people realize as we talk to them at age 65, 66, 70, 62, whatever, that, if I do this, and finish paying off that, then I'll be okay. I had this conversation yesterday with a fine fella and his wife. The light clicked. It's just like, we're going to be okay. I can do this. But it's nervous because we're used to our whole life going out and earning a check and getting paid.
It's scary. It's
trading
a huge
time for
transition.
money.
Yeah.
But then you get to a point in life where you don't have to trade time for money. Money's coming in because you put in the time and energy and planning and investing
Right.
over the years to make that happen.
Right,
From
right.
there, yeah.
It's scary though.
No, it's yeah.
That set income and
Yeah.
I hear that a lot with the seasoned folks.
Yeah.
You know, I'm on a fixed income.
Well, fixed income.
Yeah.
I went back and looked at a couple things that we talked about over the previous year ends and stuff like that. Last year, and then I'll go back 2 years ago because some things came true that we talked about. But last year we were talking about, it's always a good time at the end of this year, 7 things. Reassess your budget. You know, you've got 11 months in now. How did you do? What did you overspend on? What do you need to cut back on? What can you invest more in? Reset your budget. Automate. It's easy today to get your bills, utilities, things that you know you got to pay.
I've got my
set up,
spreadsheet, and when it clears my bank, I highlight that, and it's very satisfying.
Yeah,
it really is like checking a box.
Check a box, and that way you can spend your time and energy doing other things from there.
Yeah.
Eliminate clutter. You know, it's a whole industry now of decluttering.
Right.
Minimizing.
Yep, I am a minimalist myself.
Is a minimalist?
Yes, minimalist. And it starts with just tidying your home, but it goes into finances, it goes into relationships. There's a ripple effect with the lifestyle.
Yeah,
absolutely.
A wise friend of mine, good friend of mine, told me years ago, Steve, you define who you are by what you say no to.
Ooh, okay.
And by saying no, you only say yes to things. Another friend taught me this. Only say yes to things that you know you can put the time, energy in to make a positive difference.
Gotcha.
Not be neutral, not be a drag, but you can put time and energy into, and things that excite you, that you know it's part of what your core beliefs are, things like that. So that's pretty good. Delegate's part of that. Things that you don't do well, I've learned over time to. And you know this, it's hard for me to delegate, but I've got to the point where I just got to say, please take care of this, and it's done.
Yep.
And that's trust, that's a whole lot of things. But then you need to delegate to people who can do things better than you can. Right? That's
absolutely, and have
simple.
the time to do it.
Yeah, and have the time to do it.
As your marketing director, I appreciate you give me things to do, and then you leave me alone and let me do it.
Well, I sent you an email this morning about a project on that.
I'll check
It's
on
done.
that. Yeah.
Review your legal papers. It's amazing how things get out of hand. Beneficiary forms. Did someone that you had on the beneficiary form pass away? I just had a recent client whose brother passed away, who was one of her beneficiaries.
Wow.
We got to get together and make changes on that. I had a son that just got married. Well, guess what? Probably need to change my beneficiary forms a little bit.
Right.
I also turned 26, which means that some things that I had in place for him will no longer work at the end of this year. So life changes. Check those beneficiary
grandbabies
forms.
come. I have to add a couple of those.
Well,
onto
that's
my
true too. When they
stuff.
come, you got to add stuff to them.
Yes.
We talked a lot about tax planning. Quite honestly, we're talking about year-end tax planning. The 2023 tax planning year begins January 1st of next year. You got to start planning from day one. And priorities, we touched on that a little bit. Number 7, reassess your priorities. What you're involved in, what you need to kind of let go, things of that nature there.
Yeah, financially and with time. Time is something you cannot replenish.
And then it was interesting, I went back 2 years ago. We were in the midst of COVID, trying to figure out what's this, what works, what doesn't.
Yeah.
And in our December newsletter of 2022 years ago, I mentioned some trends, and I mentioned 5 trends that I thought would be somewhat continued or somewhat permanent. Trend 1, work from home will become permanent for many workers, which has become
Unless
true.
you work at Twitter.
Well, anyway, and some companies have found that works, and some have said, you know what, we need that camaraderie back in. Depends on the industry.
I missed it when we had that quarantine for, was it 2 weeks? And then we alternated. You were really good about that with us. But those 2 weeks working from home, I missed everybody. I missed all of it. I got very lonely.
Well, we got caught up on things that were going on outside, things of that nature.
Yeah.
But for many, it's permanent. Many are hiring for that way. And many individuals, young individuals, have found that working from home means they can go to exotic places around the world and work.
Yeah.
And many countries and resorts are catering to that.
Right. And if you have the self-discipline to do that, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think they're wired differently than we are.
Yeah, it's just wired, but most of the time it's computer engineering, it's projects that they're doing projects. It doesn't require interaction much with other people. Works fine for that.
Sure.
2, telemedicine would continue to grow. There's many companies now here advertise that we can do visits, by Zoom or whatever, things like that. And for many things, that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
But if they got to examine, something that's different.
Absolutely.
I think online purchasing will continue to explode. Well, we've seen that.
Right.
Everybody wants to get that stuff at their door, and many companies now have same-day delivery.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just anyway.
It's mind-blowing how they. I don't know how the inner workings work, but they do a great job.
Well, and that was for a trend. Home delivery of everything will become more acceptable. I mean, I know people that don't. They don't go anywhere to shop. They get it all delivered to their door, which is fine. And more food. We always thought about Chinese and pizza coming to our door, but now you can get food from many restaurants.
Just about anywhere.
Delivered.
Yeah.
And the 5 trend is, and I think we've kind of done this for the past 2 years, we will value our friends and families more.
I agree.
And relationships, we realize when things can fall apart, but those that are close and true to us, our friends and family, that's what kind of
it was a
matters.
Great opportunity when we all started coming back to ambassador meetings for the chamber and all these different places I go. There were tears for a lot of us because we really, it's easy to take people for granted.
Oh yeah.
And that was a wake-up call for all of us, I think.
That investing in those, it goes back to what I talked, investing in those closest to you, in organizations and causes that are close to you.
Right.
You hone that in, and that's how you live a life with no regrets looking back.
I agree. I agree. That's a big deal. I want to circle back real quick when you talked about benefits and adding people, life changes. I know we've done some workshops and you've talked about some stories where maybe an ex, you left, folks. I mean, the divorce rate's much higher than any of us wish it were, but it's pretty high.
Yes.
So that is one of the things that could be an absolute financial nightmare. Yeah,
and this was a case back a few years ago that made it to the U.S. Supreme Court, actually. And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 9-0. Imagine that, 9-0. But it was a case where a fellow was married in another state up north, married, and was working for a company, which I won't name here, but anyway, and had a 401k plan and had his wife named as beneficiary. Well, things happen, let's put it that way. He goes to a southern state, begins working for basically the same company, a different location, and without the process of getting legally divorced and things like that, marries another lady down there.
Oh, boy.
And that's his wife, and does not change the beneficiary form. Well, he dies many years later, has a large chunk of money as 401k, and the company had his first wife in New York as a beneficiary. Well, this works its way through courts, and the Supreme Court basically said, whose name is on that beneficiary form gets the money.
Right. It is law. It is bottom line, correct? That beneficiary form, regardless of what life throws at you.
Regardless of what your will says, your trust says, the beneficiary form is who the companies have a contractual obligation to pay it to.
Right.
All right. And so, and going back to a client whose brother was on her the only beneficiary, he died. Well, if she had passed away, then and didn't have any named beneficiary, it goes to her estate, and then it gets divided up by the laws of the state among other relatives, many people you might not want to have as there, things like that.
Sure.
So I can't stress enough the beneficiary forms, primary, contingent. So if the primary person passed away, the money now flows to your contingents or secondary beneficiaries.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. The court system is full of cases where things went wrong when you thought you had it right.
Sure. And that's why folks like you come on shows like this to encourage people to have a slotted time. At the very end of a year or the beginning of a fresh year is just the perfect time to reevaluate all of these things. And it's not hard to do. It's not labor intensive unless you do need to make a change. And that's important.
And you got to make decisions.
Sure. And also around the holidays is when families come together. So that is a great opportunity when you're with a seasoned mom or dad or parents, grandparents, to talk about those tough things to talk about. Yeah,
and we get a lot of calls after Thanksgiving or after Christmas holidays about changes or things like that. And and we partner with there's a lot of great local estate planning attorneys that we partner with,
Right.
CPAs, tax preparers. So anymore, you want a well-rounded team of individuals that all know each other, that so that when someone passes away and they're seeing a local attorney, that we know them.
Right.
And we know that we're going to make sure that the process to go through tax planning, things like that. So anymore in the field of financial planning, a team approach, collaborating together, is really very valuable.
I agree.
Very valuable.
Because not one of you can do all things.
No, and I will not do, and I declare I do not.
Right. Yeah, I know that the Right Legacy Group, like you said, works really well with elder law attorneys, and you all are very good about referring people back and forth for that reason, because there are certain things that they would know that your office.
Right. Or we don't have the legal ability to help
Right.
them with.
Right.
And same thing with tax planning and things like that. You need good tax preparers, good CPAs, and a lot of this is just planning in advance, and then the game plan is already there that we know we have our part to do as a team, and then make it very easy for the heirs and things like that.
And we've talked about the seasoned folks, what they need to do at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year, with what they've established. Let's talk briefly about the younger ones who are just getting started, and they're going to be starting 2023. What would you suggest? I find that when I'm out in the community, younger folks find investing in those type of things intimidating. Oh, I don't have enough money to invest, or I'll worry about that later down the road. What would your advice to them be?
Well, first and foremost, if they participate in a company plan, a 401k plan, or they work for the government through a savings plan or a nonprofit 403b, let's back up just a little bit. If you have not fully funded those accounts, you still have till the end of the year to do that.
Right.
But that doesn't mean writing a check on December 30. That means getting it up there so it counts this year.
Yeah.
So you do here at the end of the year have time to put more money away. Now, the IRS allows, if you have IRA accounts, individual IRA accounts, they do allow you till April 15th of next year to back fund for this year.
Nice.
Now, the reason to do that is that many times your tax preparer will say, look, if you'll put an extra, you only put $3,000 into your IRA account. You can put up to $6,000 if you're under age 50. If you put in an extra $1,000, then I can save you $400 in taxes.
All right.
All right, so
That's a win-win.
That's a deal. So on IRA accounts, individual IRA accounts and things like that, you can backward fund.
Gotcha.
But company plans, dollars in this year count. So you got to pick her on that. But then that's always working from behind. So what I'm saying, get in as much as you can now, and then start planning for next year.
Gotcha.
And we have a lot of clients, grandkids of clients, stuff that start for $20 a month to invest.
Right.
You know what? Over time, they're like, wow, this kind of adds up a little bit.
It does.
It
It really does.
When you're starting at 18, 19, 20, and you're putting in $20 a month, $240 a year, well, 4 or 5 years later, you're like, well, I got a little pocket change there. I'm just working.
Yeah.
That's the whole process working earlier. And there's so many things out there. I'm not going to mention apps that are there,
Right.
Online programs that help you invest. And in many banks have a process where if you write a check for $8.50, that they have a program where they'll round it up to 9 and take the 50 cents and put it in the savings account for you.
That's awesome.
And that's an easy thing to do with
absolutely.
your local bank, things like that. And there's other apps that do the same thing when you use your credit card or pay through certain apps, things of that nature there. So being able to save, rounding up is an easy way to do it.
That's a great
Yeah.
idea,
Great way to,
actually.
add
Even
up.
for high school students.
Yeah.
Just
And then
start
when
young.
they balance their checkbook, which I'm sure they all do, they don't have to worry about $8.50. They just put $9.
$9. And if anything, just starting that simply, that
Yes.
young, you develop that savings mentality.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
I find that people, when you say the word, the younger ones, when you say investing, they find it intimidating. And so would you recommend someone, probably not high school age, but young adults, to make an appointment with a financial advisor and plot out short-term and long-term goals?
Yeah, in Kentucky, the age of minority is 18. So once you turn 18, then you can, on your own, set up an investment account.
Right.
many states is 21. So yeah, it never hurts. Tag along with mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, just to see the process, what you talk about, things like that and all. But it's with the technology we have today, it's so easy to get started and kind of test the waters, I guess, from there. You know, actually right now things are on sale. The market's been down this year quite a bit, 20% or more. So something that you could have bought in January at $100 a share is on sale today at $80 a share. Now, if I'm going to the grocery, we all like sales, right? Buy things and clothing. Well, investments are on sale right now.
Gotcha.
Stocks and things like that.
Right. That puts it in more of a tangible
they're on
aspect.
Sale.
Gotcha.
So it's just simply they're on sale.
Right.
I can't say how long they'll be on sale, but yeah, if you want to start, you can.
Well, there's something trending online right now. They talk about the envelope method.
Yes.
Of paying bills. And I'm thinking that's not new. I remember that from way back when, but I guess it's resurfacing.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that?
It was brought really to prominence since with Dave Ramsey and the Financial Peace books to do the envelope system. And there is something very interesting about the fact if you pull out to pay cash versus your debit card or credit card, it's a good way to get you a hard budget.
Yeah.
And
well, then you look at it's empty. You're
done.
The
entertainment.
You don't have a card.
Entertainment. Here it is. You know, the end of the month, and my entertainment
McDonald's
is gone. You know, I guess I'll have romaine noodles.
Right.
So, I mean, you see, it helps you visually see money leaving versus just on paper.
Right.
And it feels a little more painful paying cash. You know, you just feel it go out. Like, wow, that went quick.
Yeah.
Where if you're putting on a debit or a credit card, you don't realize it till later, the pain of it.
I think it depends on personality.
It does.
As which style works better.
Yeah, but it's a good way to get started. Method. Here's the money in this envelope. If it's got money there, hey, we got $2 left in this. At the end of last day of the month, we can go get a coffee or whatever.
Right. Or a half a coffee, because they're pretty expensive. Yeah. Well, they even have, what do you think now of, for like our grandchildren's age, they have the little debit cards where you can put their allowance on the cards and it can teach them responsibility. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a good way to let them know that there's a fixed amount there, you know, and how to use it. Because, you know, our debit and credit cards are highly used.
Yes.
I mean, and it's just, you can't make a lot of transactions without them.
Right.
It is a good way to kind of let them know you got this amount on there because you've earned some money. But it's not any problem with that. It is a good way to let them know that, you know, my kids thought that as long as I had checks in the checkbook that we had money in the bank. Well, that's not how that works.
Exactly.
Anyway, so that's a good way to get them started, trained on knowing that there is a finite number there.
Good. Well, I'm afraid we're out of time.
Out of time?
We are out of time. I am so sorry. I'm sure we could go on even more. And I guess what we want to go out with is encouraging people to set goals.
Yeah,
to be
that's
aware.
the main thing. We want to reevaluate. We touched on some things. We do have copies of these old newsletters back. We do. If you want to get one from last December or a couple years ago to follow up. And just plan. Just take some time to think and plan. And if things are not going right in your financial life this year, make an effort to make some adjustments to have next year be better for you.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, Steve.
Sure,
I know
no
you're busy, licensed in 30 states, you're everywhere. But home base right here, Hardin County, Kentucky. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Melanie Parker, and you have safe holidays, and we'll see you next year.